This week on What's Good Cape Cod, we talk about the new head of the Cape Cod Chamber, a beautiful business born out of the pandemic, and one of Cape Cod's oldest industries. I'm Sarah Lapsey-Martin.
And I'm Katie Clancy. Welcome back to What's Good Cape Cod, where we show you the Cape through the eyes of a couple of locals.
And every Tuesday, we drop a new video about a person, place, and thing we think you should know about.
That's right. And so our person this week is Paul Niedzwiecki, who is, I would say, one of the bravest people on Cape Cod right now, trying to fill the shoes of the legend of Wendy Northcross.
Major big shoes to fill.
So I'm just getting to know Paul. So I'm in the the Community Leadership Institute right now of Cape Cod. And Paul was one of our guest speakers this past week. And we talked about like some of the challenges that Cape is facing. And I was like, oh, we have such a hill to climb. How are we going to get over all this housing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, give me hope. And Paul chimed in and he said, listen, take this. The Cape has been deforested completely 3 times. And come back every time. We are resilient. We're resilient ecologically. We're resilient community-wise. I mean, there are limits to our resiliency, which is why we have to take care of some of these things. But the Cape itself and the community of the Cape is so strong. So I was like, yes, he really got me fired up. And one of the things he said was like the major issue phasing, like, listen, we all have our ideas about what the biggest issues are for Cape Cod, and from his perspective, from the Cape Cod Chamber, is labor shortage. We have such a labor shortage, and he's right. And he said it's caused mostly by lack of housing, which is our jam. It's, I think, a really huge problem, and the lack of accessible, affordable childcare, which it keeps half of us out of the industry if we have to stay home with our kids. What I loved about his perspective about the solution to housing, because whenever you talk about like, what are we going to do? We need more houses. We need to build more houses. He said, 86% of the land of the Cape is either developed or protected. It doesn't leave a lot for housing, but he says, we're not going to build our way out. And I loved that he said that. It's all about finding new places to have housing. And that just comes down to getting into places of, activity centers like village centers, and changing some zoning so that we can make that happen, and also expediting permits. And this all happens on the local town level. And he also brought up a just really cool, helped me with some big picture stuff. He said, listen, you look at the Cape Cod from the outside looking in, and it's just this one place. But when you get over the bridge and you get in here, you have to understand that each of the 15 towns, we have our own pride. We have our own personalities. And within that, you've got villages.
Yes.
It's like when you live in an island community, right? We do. You get like that. And he talked about, obviously we have to respect that and work with that and realize that is what makes us who we are, what makes us resilient, what makes our community so tight. So that's our person. What's our place? What's our place?
So our place is one of our new favorites. I know you love them.
Oh yes, of course.
Yes, is the Lighthouse Keeper's Pantry in Yarmouth Court on Route 6A. One of our favorite places to come out of the pandemic. And for everyone that doesn't know, it's like a charming little coffee shop that has baked goods and sandwiches. And it all started actually with their line of jams and sauces that they have. For us locals or other people that read online, they just had an amazing article featured in the Cape Cod Times.
Yes.
All about, career pivots, turning their dreams into reality during the pandemic.
Leaving the city, all that.
The city, leaving everything. I just think it was an amazing article. And I learned a lot about it. And so Kelly O'Connell and Gregory Belzekian are the owners. Many Cape Codders will be familiar with Gregory because his parents owned the Christmas tree shop, and we're everywhere on the Cape here. He works there. They sold it in 2003, and he opened East Dennis International, which was an import store. He sold things out of there, and Just Picked, which is another store on Route 6A, which I learned is where the first Christmas tree shop actually was, right there on Route 6A. And then on the other side, Kelly, who's the other owner, she was living in New York. She wanted to escape that rat race of the city, and her childhood home was here in Yarmouthport. So during the pandemic, she would go a few days to the city to work, and then because she could work remotely, she would come back to the Cape and, enjoy Cape Cod and the beach. She has an impressive background with product development, brand name marketing, and she's worked with brands like Martha Stewart, Macy's, Weight Watchers. So, she knows what she's doing here. Yeah. And she wanted to be on the Cape, but she couldn't really find a job, nothing that really fit her, And so she loved being in the kitchen. She started creating jams, which are delicious jams. So there are these jams and jellies, and she would sell them on Route 6A just in front of her parents' house, like a little pop-up farm shop, which I think is amazing. And, after a little while of that, she went to Gregory with her idea, let's open a condiment business, So he kind of said, okay, well, gather all your things. She spent about 6 months or so and got the brand going and the recipes and everything, and found about 30 places that would carry her jams and condiments. So he said, okay, let's do this together. And I think only about a month or so after that is when the property where they're located now on Route 6A came up for sale. So it's, the cafe, and then you can live above it. So they jumped on that opportunity, which I think is amazing, because their jams were awesome, but having somewhere that you can go in person, and they've really transformed it. It's not just their jams. They have little things that you can buy in there. They have cookbooks and towels.
It's a great gift shop. It's cool local. I was in there the other day. There was all these cool bowls and little serving trays, condiment trays, which makes sense.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
But there's also grab and go food.
Well, and that's the thing. They have their amazing egg sandwiches. I love, they have scones and cookies, and they have these egg bakes that they sell, which are amazing. So it's one of my new local favorite spots.
Have you gotten the clamshell fortunes?
No, I know you did.
So they have they take little actually cherry stone shells, glue them back together, but put a fortune inside. It's so cute. I think
it's so cute. Idea. It is, and and everything's delicious. And then I'm really excited to see where they're going to go, because they had mentioned that they're obviously still growing. They have plans of actually, I think some of them are in beekeeping school, and they're going to produce their own honey, which is really cool. And then fresh eggs, they would like to do that as well. So stay tuned, go visit them, tell them we sent you. And
so when we were in the middle of the pandemic, and you and I were talking about different new buyers that were coming in, it was interesting. We're seeing a lot of work from home people and more white collar families coming, and blah, 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 blah. And one of the things that I think I said in one episode was wouldn't it be cool, as we see this new demographic moving into the Cape that we haven't had so much in the past, and the new businesses that might happen because they decide to be here and start a life. And I was thinking more people would be here, there would be a new demand for artisan pizza or something like that. So we would have more on that later, right? We're going to do some pizza talk in a future episode. But the change in demographics on the Cape would bring some new businesses. And I feel this is kind of that.
Yeah, they've hit it out of the park. I mean,
I'm psyched. I wonder what else we're going to see. I bet this is not the last business we feature that was born in 2020, 2021.
I agree.
100%. Just saying. Yeah. All right. It's such a good episode. So person, place, our thing.
Oh, yeah.
Commercial Fishermen's Cape Cod. Wait, what's the full name?
Cape Cod Commercial Fishermen's Alliance.
Yes. Okay. So I'm so impressed with these guys. So we've always kind of known, because they were the Hook Fishermen's Alliance. So we in our adult lifetime have been vaguely aware of them, mostly because the Hooker's Ball. That's funny. That's a funny name, Hooker's Ball, which is a big fundraising event that they have every year and have for I don't know how many years.
I know, we're going to have to go. I've never been.
I really think I believe there's a costume situation that's involved.
We can do it, yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I checked my facts on this. I did no research on the words that are about to come out of my mouth. Okay, you ready? I think they serve trash fish. So I was in fisheries when I was in college. And I worked for National Marine Fisheries Service before I was a teacher, and then before I was a realtor. And I trash fish are the fish that you catch, they're sort of bycatch, that are plentiful, but nobody wants to eat traditionally. And those are like dogfish and skate. And when I was in fisheries in the early 90s, that was when they were like, okay, you can't sell stripers anymore. Like my father.
The little song you were telling me about earlier?
It's not a little song. It's Billy Joel. The Downeaster Alexa. And that verse where it's like, since they told me I can't sell no stripers, he's talking about how the fishermen had to go out further and further to actually make a living, and how hard it is as a fisherman. It's like the anthem for fishermen, and it's true. And that's about when that song was written as well. So these guys were like watching all of this legislation happen that is impacting their livelihood. And, you think from like a White House perspective, government perspective, like, hey, listen, everybody's got to, take their lumps. We got to do it, take one for the team. And they were like, what we can, you're not listening to us. And because they weren't organized. So these guys got very organized, and I love it because fishermen are typically pretty independent kind of people. And for them to get together and create this literal alliance that has lived for years, since the early 90s, and has evolved and grown and had impact on legislation and done really cool, innovative things, which you wouldn't think is a real blue collar thing to do. But if there's enough fire behind it, they'll make it happen. So they've got the ball,
because it's affecting them all. So it's
it's affecting them, but it's affecting our economy in the Cape, and so a lot of cool things have happened. Tell the people, Sarah, about Pier to Plate. So do you know how that started?
Yeah, so that started before the pandemic, and that was basically when they were, working to sell, like we were saying, the dogfish.
Yeah.
So now, fast forward in the pandemic, what they're doing is, which I hope a lot of people took advantage of this, was actually being able to buy right off the boat. So
any fish, not just skate and dogfish. Any fish, shellfish.
Yeah, regulations change. I know a big one for me was the scallops. But you could buy them off the boat, which wasn't happening before. It wasn't a thing before. And that's a great positive thing to come out of the pandemic, because we feel, the consumers feel like, okay, we're learning about where our fish comes from. We're learning about the family or whoever it is that's the fisherman or the shellfish person, and that we're supporting our local Cape Codders. So I think it's a win-win.
Yeah, like I said, I do love that in 2022, we are now starting to see some of these really wonderful things that communities like ours on the Cape do. This is the way we respond when the chips are down, the pressure's on, and things are hard. We tend to come together eventually. Listen, we live on our bickering. We just love to be like, Dennis and Yarvin, like, but when shit gets real, we'll come together and make something happen. And that's one of these things. Mm-hmm. And I just, and we've been trying so hard to get the Isabel Lilly on our show. We are doing that. We want to get on that boat. But they're so darn busy. There's just always at sea, or they're like, that doesn't work. We're doing that. It doesn't work. We get it. But if we're
going to get on that,
guys, we want on the boat. Oh my gosh.
That'll be so fun.
This is like one of my favorite episodes that we've done.
I know, this is a great one.
Really, really fun stuff. But it's over. That's it. We can only tell you about 3 things per episode. So that is it for What's Good Cape Cod. So now you know. So if you are watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe. Well, hit like. I mean, for Pete's sake, this was a great episode. But subscribe, because next episode is going to be even better. I'm just saying. And hit the notify button so you get a heads up when we drop a new episode.
And if you're looking for more information about anything we talked about today or past episodes, you can visit our website, whatsgoodcc.com.